Hello everyone, welcome to this week's webinar. Here with Brenndan Cooper. We're at Tiffany Green's Golf Club in Kansas City, Missouri, home of the Chiefs and the Royals. Go Royals! And go Chiefs on Sunday, but it'll be a little early for me to watch that game. As always, we're brought to you by Medicus Golf and KickX Golf. If you have any questions, please put them in the sidebar there. We'll get to those when we get done. Today's subject, if you kind of saw that, is, you know, your ball goes in the water, but it doesn't really want to go in the water. It goes in the water because it has to go in the water. So why would your ball have to go in the water? So it's because of what you're doing with this golf club, dude. You're not controlling the face or the path, all right? So that ball's only going there because that's what you told it to do.
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot in the past about how to control the club face, how to control your start lines, your curves, etc. So, B, why don't you tell us a little bit about your feelings on it too?
Well, I mean, you know, like Chuck said, we talk. It seems like every week we get a question on, you know, I sliced the ball or I hooked the ball, and you know, we just want to make sure people understand a little bit more detail as far as what causes the ball to do what. Because that's what we try to get our players to understand is, look, if the ball's doing this, then that means swing-wise you're doing this. And so they can go back then and kind of be their self-coach and correct it on their own. So, you know, until you really grasp what causes the ball to do what, you're kind of hitting and hoping and guessing in a way.
Right. I mean, you know, I can't tell you how many people come up and we'll ask them, you know, if you want to hit a draw, where do you aim the club face? And they all say left. Well, if you want to hit a pull draw, that would be the place to aim it.
Exactly, yes.
So if you want to hit a draw or a fade, you have to aim the club face where you want the ball to start, and that is not at the target.
Correct.
It's either going to be to the right of it for a draw or to the left of it for a fade. And then the only other thing you have to do after you aim that, you have to make sure the swing path that you're swinging on, in other words, where the club head is traveling. If I'm hitting a draw, the path needs to be farther right than the face. If I'm hitting a fade, the path has to be farther left than the face.
Right.
And that's all there is to it.
And the thing where people get confused is they do the face in relation to target line.
Right.
Where it's not the target line, it's in, like Chuck said, the direction that this thing's being swung on.
Right.
So that's where I think a lot of times people get confused with it. It's like, well, the face was this in relation to the target line. No, it's what it is to the path.
Right. So, you know, if we just lay down a couple of rods, let's say.
I tried to give you a color assortment there.
Okay, so let's say that, you know, I'll put this where you guys can see it. So let's say that this is where I want the ball to end up. Okay? But I want to hit a draw. So that means that my club face needs to point to the right of this at impact. So you'd be better off just to set it there at address, so it'll be pointing to the right. Now your path, where the club head is swinging, needs to be farther right than that club face swing, period.
Yeah.
So when you set up, instead of setting up square, set your body, which is trying to control your path, to the right after you have set the club face pointed to the right. And as you look down, in your mind, what you're going to see is a club face that is closed to your path. Okay? And we're not even going to talk about the target line because that's way too confusing.
Yeah.
But right now, your target line is basically where you want this ball to start.
Yeah.
Okay, not where you want it to end up.
Right.
So if we're going to do a fade, we just do it just the opposite way. I mean, that's really all there is to it. It's not that difficult, and if you practice this, along with a couple of other things that we always do, like getting your ball started to the right or left of the stick, like we always talk about, it's pretty easy to do, right?
Now, I think, you know, and again, you know, when we're talking about a draw or a fade, you know, we want that ball curving back to our initial target line. Right. You know, a lot of players, what they'll do is if they're, let's say, for instance, a 6-iron in their hand, they'll aim it X number of far to the left or to the right if they're trying to hit a draw, moving it away from target. Well, that ball's basically not a draw. It's going to have to be a big hook to get back there. So you want to keep your target line pretty much going towards your actual target, but let the ball work back to that target.
Right, and not past the target.
Correct.
Because you don't want an overdraw or an overfade either.
Right. We want it coming back to the line, but like we tell our young players, we want it coming back to the line, but not crossing that line.
Right. So, I mean, if you look at Bruce Litsky and Sam Snead, they both kind of aim to the right. And Litsky hit a fade from there, but Snead hit a pull draw from there.
Yeah.
So he had to aim a little farther right even to hit a pull draw target.
And both players had the path more from the outside. It was just a difference of where the face was in relation to that path.
Right.
That was the difference of those players.
Right. So we got a few toys here. We can show you a few things. Where do you want to start, Brenndan?
Oh, well, I think, why don't we start with the big boy here?
Okay. You probably have to get up pretty close so they can see it.
And again, do this here. So we take this monster club here. I'm going to put 2 rods in here. So if I face it and kind of, so let's say the white rod is the face and the red one here is the path. We can see anytime we get a difference of these two, how this little cone right here starts to tilt. So you can see if that's face on, that'd be square. So you can see if the path and the face are going the same direction, whether it's straight or in to out, out to in. If they match, well, that ball is going to take off and it's going to fly pretty straight through this little cone.
Regardless of where it starts.
Correct. Now, if all of a sudden we start tweaking our path some, so now you can see how this has got a little bit of an angle to it, that's going to start giving the ball the curve. Right. Okay. So you got to look at it, and again, I know we say it over and over again, it's the difference of those two elements. Right. It's making it do all this funny stuff.
Right. So the wider the dispersion, the more curves there's going to be.
Correct. Correct.
So you also have to remember that if you looked at your watch, for every, if you have a sweep hand, for every second on your watch, every one of those ticks is 6 degrees. So, you know, you get somebody that would say, well, I'm going to aim my body where I want it to start, and they aim over here. Well, right now that's about 10 o'clock on my watch. All right, so that is almost 60 degrees, all right, that they're aimed to the right. So to get this ball back to target, this face is going to have to be 30 degrees close to that.
Yeah.
And you're going to get the giant hook out of
We're
that.
going to call that the banana shot.
The banana. The same thing with the fade,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So aim your club face where you want the ball to start, and then set your body, depending on what you want it to do, fade or draw, set your body to the club face. So like I said, in a draw, my body, which is trying to control the path of the club head, now my face is close to that path so I can hit a draw. It'll start right and draw back.
Yeah.
And for the fade, same thing. I'm going to set it where I want it to start, then I'm going to move my path by moving my body slightly left of that, and then swing, always swing along your body line.
Don't swing along your initial target line.
No.
Swing it with your body.
Because here's what happens. If I'm right here and I'm in square stance, my swing goes this way. Well, if I'm like this, my swing still goes this way. But relative to my target line, it's going to look outward to inward. Just like I'm going to swing the same way if my body's closed to it, or my path is closed, right? And again, so now it looks like it's going more inward to outward.
Yeah.
But it's on plane to myself.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
all right. So those are a couple of good things. Now we also have the Medicus Vision Track Pro, and when we set this up, we have a target line, okay, and we have the path line. So on the Vision Track Pro, there's a couple of lines on here to show you, if you're trying to hit a draw, you set your face this way, which is kind of tilted down at address. If you're trying to hit a fade, you set it the other way, so you feel like you're opening up the toe a little bit. And the object is to get the sweet spot, or get the path to swing right along that line, all the way to impact. Now, if you're somebody that comes into here and then you just jerk it up this way, what's going to happen is you're going to hit this travel run. It's going to move. If you swing outward to inward, if you miss that whole path coming down, you're going to crash into that gate as well.
Yeah.
So, but the other side of the coin is, when you're moving it on this path, you're only going up to your target side shoulder. You're not going to extend that path past that.
Right.
Because that's way too far out.
Yeah.
And you'd miss this travel bar for sure, but you're gonna have a ball that's starting way too far to the right.
Yep, and that's definitely, you know, what Chuck's saying there, you definitely don't want to feel like anything's going this way.
Right.
I mean, trust me, if you can get set up and you understand the concept, just do your normal motion and it will do what you're wanting it to do.
Right, so if we turn this around real quick, let me turn it this way, see if you guys can see it. That's fairly square to you guys, okay? So again, when I'm swinging down this path and I make impact, you'll notice from there, you'll notice how my body goes this way. Because it's exactly the same angle on the other side too. What we see with players sometimes is they'll get here and they start extending their arms out and away from them like this. You know, their arms just kind of run away.
Yeah, and again, that's probably because subconsciously they're trying so hard to go into out.
Right.
Where, you know, if we had our big trusty playing board that we use, if we had it on here, well, if the club is on perfectly on plane, it's coming from the inside.
Right.
And then it's got to go left eventually.
Right. It's got to go as soon as it goes past whatever the low point is.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So again, from this view here, as I'm swinging down, as I come into impact, you'll see how quickly my hands and everything start disappearing left. And we don't want to see the hands going out this way. I mean, they're just running flat out. Now, you will see Ricky Fowler and a few of those guys, when they get them back, you'll see their hands out here, right? They don't go quite as far left. You'll see their hands out here. And that's okay. We just don't want them to go clear out there.
Right. Exactly.
So, you know, again, the bottom line is if you control the face, you control the path, you're going to control the golf ball, right? And if you control the golf ball, then you control the golf course.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
So, all right, we got a couple of questions. Let's see what we've got here. Okay, first question. Dan, any drills to keep the upper body and head behind the ball at impact? My upper body is moving ahead of the ball, causing fat shots. Well, let's talk about that for a second. Typically, if your head is moving ahead of the ball, you're going to hit up here. Fat shots are generally caused by the pressure staying back on the back foot and the head falling backwards. Right? I mean, most of the time when you go up this way, you're going to hit some thin shots. And actually, if you did it correctly and you didn't modify your swing at all, let's say the ball was set right here, and I went up over this way, I actually should miss the ball. I wouldn't hit it fat. I mean, it's really hard to hit it fat when your head's leaning forward.
Right. Definitely.
So the first thing I would look is I do some mirror drills. Stand in front of the mirror and go to the top, come down to impact. You should feel pressure up here on your lead side, your left arm or your target side arm and shaft in one line at impact. If your head looks like this, it's going to be almost impossible to hit it fat. However, if your head looks like this, now I have too much pressure back here. Okay, and when you do that, chances are you're going to hit it fat.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So get the pressure going forward, get the hands going forward. Okay, and if your head, there's a lot of players on tour that their head actually goes backwards a little bit. Right?
Yeah.
There are some guys, the guys that start this way, you'll see them move forward, and then at the last second, they start backing up.
Back out of it, yeah.
Yeah, because they're going to hit usually some low to the right shots.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right, I think we have one more question. Let's see what we got. Looks like Air has signed up. Air, let's see what you're asking today. Where are the pressure points in the hands? Okay, so again, if you want pressure behind the shaft, you don't want pressure in front of the shaft. And we've talked about this a couple of times too, right? So when I put my grip on, I have the last three fingers of the left hand, they're behind the shaft. They wouldn't be on top of the shaft, nor to the forward side of it. Then I have this hand coming across, so I have my heel pad of my trail hand pushing against the thumb. That's also on the aft side. I have the first joint of my index finger behind the shaft. So everything is behind the shaft. and then I have pressure to my upper arm and chest.
Yep.
Right, so you have these, and so as you get to the top, you have to get rid of this somehow, all right? You have to unload all this stuff. So not pressure points, but your I don't want to call them what they're normally called, but your forms of pressure.
Yeah.
Or your forms of power. So first thing I'd want to do is I'd want to start losing the angle to my left arm and chest, okay? Then I'd want to start losing this angle, the cocking motion of the wrist. Then I would want to start rolling my hands here and lose this angle. And finally, I want to lose the angle between the arm and club shaft. So I'm going here, 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 here. But it's all going pretty fast.
It's going blink of an eye fast.
Right. So if you are unloading that pressure, you could hit a ball just moving this pressure right here, okay, and this power source. You could hit a ball by using just this power source. You can hit a ball by just using this power source, right? And you can hit a ball by just going this way, right?
And with all those motions, he was using the pressure that he went over as far as where those pressure areas were in his hands.
Right.
So, you know, the last three here, the thumb pad, index finger, and here.
Right. So that's kind of that. Now let's see what we got here. I see a big question mark here. All right, Air, hope that answered your question there. So that's where they are. We only cock the left wrist, not both wrists. Why don't you take this?
Yes. You know.
Okay, yeah, yes.
Yes. All right, so, you know, and sometimes, yeah, I mean, we focus a lot on when we go back and we want to feel like we're cocking this left wrist. We don't want players to feel like they're intentionally trying to cock the right, because if they're cocking the right, then they're going to make all this funny movement up here, and that's going to bend this left wrist, and you've got a lot of extra movement you've got to do. So we want to make sure that when we go back, and I'll do it this angle here. So as I start to go back, I'm going to get to a point where this is going to start cocking upward with my left wrist, and you can see how that's going to lay my right wrist back this way. So when I get to the top of my swing, you can see it right there. There's my right wrist. If I tried cocking my right wrist, now you can see how that throws everything across, and now I've bent this left.
Right, so what you have to think of is your target side wrist is moving vertically or perpendicular. Your trail side wrist is a horizontal motion, okay? That's what they do.
Yep.
And they have to do those together to be able to stay on plane.
Yes, right, because if anything's going on with this right one, then that's throwing everything helter-kelter.
Right. Okay, well, I guess that's it. We didn't have a lot of questions today, so I guess you guys are getting ready for the Royals to kick some booty tonight and getting ready for Halloween. So hopefully the Chiefs, you know, we got one in a row. We're on a roll.
Yeah,
What do you guys got going this
Cowboys
weekend?
have
The
got
Cowboys?
four losses in a row, so
Oh, okay.
looking
Well,
good.
sorry. All right, so we will see you guys next week. Later.